Hello everyone, I am Dr. Regina Anandi, Assistant Professor, Department of Artificial Intelligence and Data Science. Welcome to the course Visual Design and Communication. In today's session, we will begin the elements, principles and theories of design. So before learning design principles and visual elements, it's important to understand what design is and how visual communication help us to convey this. So before we understand design, let's first understand visual communication. So visual communication means conveying ideas through signs, images, colors, symbols and typography instead of using only words. A picture, symbol or an icon can often communicate a message much faster than a passage of text. So because visuals are understood by people from different cultures and language, they help overcome language barriers. So next is design as a purpose. Design is not simply about making something attractive. It is the planned and purposeful arrangements of visual elements to meet the needs of a specific audience. Every color, shape, font and image is selected carefully to communicate a clear image. Finally, notice the idea of the timeless principle shown in the slide. The image compares prehistoric cave drawing with today's digital interfaces. Although technology has changed dramatically, the main purpose of design has remained the same: to make ideas visible and meaningful. Whether it is a cave art or a mobile application, design has always been a powerful medium of communication. Transition, now that we know what visual communication is, so we are moving to another one. So let's see why design is important in our day-to-day life. So here, one of the biggest challenge in today's digital world is information overloaded. Every day we are exposed to thousands of advertisements, social media posts, websites and notification. So this creates what we call digital noise, where multiple messages compete for our attention. Because of this, clarity is no longer optional. It has become a competitive necessity. Another common mistake is the aesthetic trap. Sometimes designers focus only on making something visually attractive while forgetting whether people can easily read and understand the information. So the real challenge is to organize complex information into a clear visual hierarchy. Good design should guide the viewer's attention rather than overwhelming them. So this particular slide has introduces three different pillars of effective design. The first pillar is layout and composition. It is about arranging visual elements in a balanced way so that the viewer's eyes naturally follow the information in the correct sequence. The second pillar is typography. Choosing the right typeface is important because it reflects the brand's personality, while ensuring the content remains readable across different devices and screen sizes. The third pillar is color theory. So colors are not chosen randomly. They are selected strategically to create emotions, which indicates urgency when needed and establish a consistent visual identity. So together, these three pillars helps the designers communicate ideas clearly and effectively. Modern design combines creativity with technology. So today's designers must be comfortable using both their creative thinking and digital tools. Their role has expanded beyond traditional drawing to creating dynamic and interactive digital experience. The first aspect is digital environments. The designers use a software such as Adobe Creative Cloud to produce professional quality work. The second aspect is integrated assets, where photography, illustration, icons, and graphic elements are combined to create unified visual story. Finally, creative problem solving reminds us that technology is not only a tool, it's just only a tool. Technical skills should always support creative ideas, not to replace them. Design is not something that happens by accident. It follows a structured problem-solving process. So the first step is observation. Designers collect information, study the problem, understand the audience, and define the main message. Next comes the brainstorming. where different ideas are explored through sketches and layout experiments. This stage encourages creativity before selecting the best solution. Finally, we have the refinements. The selected idea is improved using design principles and digital tools to create polished professional visuals. So as mentioned at the bottom of the slide, great design moves from inspiration through structured exploration to purposeful execution. Effective design always begins with understanding the audience. There are three important audience strategy pillars. The first is inclusivity. A design should be accessible to everyone, including people with visual impairment, and should follow accessibility guidelines wherever possible. The second is user need. Designers should understand who the users are, their expectation, and the problem they are trying to solve. The third is environment, a design that appear perfect on a desktop computer but may not work well on the mobile phone or a print. So that is why context defines impact. Good communication depends on knowing who is viewing the design, where they are viewing it, and what they need. Remember, accessibility is not an extra feature. It's the most fundamental responsibility of every designer. Now let's look at the famous example from the history of design, the London Underground map. Before 1933, the maps were geographically accurate but extremely complex and difficult for passengers to understand. Harry Beck introduced a completely different approach. So instead of focusing on geographical accuracy, he simplified the map using colored code lines, consistent typography, and fixed 45-degree angles. So this made the map much easier to read and navigate. The success of this design created a global standard for information design. It teaches an important lesson. When usability is the goal, clarity is often more important than a perfect accuracy. Now let's summarize today's session. First, we learned the design is a strategy, not simply decoration. It is the intentional process of transforming ideas into meaningful visual communication. Second, effective visuals combine aesthetic, visual hierarchy, and technology to solve the real communication problem. So finally, the designer's role is not much more than creating attractive graphics. A designer is an author of information responsible for shaping how people understand and interpret messages. The key takeaway from today's lesson is simple. Every design decision is a communication decision. Always design with purpose and intention. Thank you everyone. Thank you so much.